The sun is shining, the pit lane is full, Monza is looking in great shape, and so too is the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup as we get ready for the first of the 3 segments of qualifying on a circuit that's a little bit damp after some overnight rain once more, but we are set for what promises to be another enthralling qualifying session, a great race and a stunning season because the entry is absolutely fantastic. Welcome along for the ride, it's going to be quite a season. David Anderson and John Watson with you bright and early as you look down at WRT's fleet of Audis, and John, gradually the pit lane is emptying and everybody up bright and early is heading for the circuit.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monza, and really welcome to Motor Racing's version of MasterChef. This is the best of GT racing, GT3 racing around the world.
We've got 11 different brands, we've got a who's who of sports car racing, we've got drivers coming from Formula E in Paris yesterday, like Robin Frins, to do their track time. We've got people switching cars overnight. Mark Sword, sadly, who had an accident at the start of yesterday, having to stand out for the rest of the weekend. So Jörg Wiebahn, who's also racing in GT4, has managed to find himself a drive in a Ferrari overnight. It still chops and changes. This is one of the new teams into Blancpain this year. It's the IMSA Performance Team Raymond Norac squad with a Porsche, and you can see how wet the road is. So this first part of qualifying, the first 15 minutes, and remember, each driver must do one segment in order to have qualified for the race. This really, John, is about getting through without making mistakes. The times are going to come in the final third when the track's drier.
Yeah, very much so. Overnight rain. The track looks pretty good here coming down the straight out on the exit of Ascari down into Parabolica. You can see a little bit of dampness, patchiness, but nothing that's going to have any bearing. The worst parts of the track will be when they really leave the exit of the first chicane, go into that very wooded bit, down to the second chicane, then the 2 NISMO corners. Out of those, the run up to the Ascari chicane, about half to 2/3 of the track will be dampish, but not wet.
So one of the 11 brands that we have is the Emil Frey Jaguar that's just gone across the timing line. Lorenz Frey does the first into the car. Stefan Ortelli, one of the drivers into it for this year. It's going to be fascinating to see how that car gets on the back of a class win, of course, at the Nürburgring at the end of last season. And one of the beauties of Monza is this parkland setting, but the bad news is that means there are lots of trees, and that means that it's not going to dry in places as quickly as the drivers would like.
Well, I think the ambient will build up eventually, but just go back to the Jaguar. I did bump into Stefan Ortelli, who we know is an Audi driver, but now in the Jaguar. Asked him how's it going, and he's very enthusiastic about the project. A lot of contribution he can make to making steps forward with the Jaguar, but he said, we have got a problem, we are extremely overweight, an additional 70 kilograms. And when you've got a flyweight like Stefan Ortelli, adding 70 kilograms is like putting his mum and dad in the car beside him.
But he's up for the challenge. It's a team with only 11 people operating on that car compared to the almost army-like squad at WRT that he's used to.
But their hospitality's got more than 11 people in the paddock. I mean, they've got an amazing hospitality unit and wonderful clothing and all the memorabilia for the Jaguar team.
It's a great effort, and it's fantastic, isn't it, to see how it's taken those strides forward. Podium at Silverstone last year, class win at the Nürburgring. So the Jaguar in the background coming down towards the Parabolica. Ahead you've got Audi, you've got Nissan, you've got Lamborghini. There are an awful lot of Lamborghinis around this weekend.
I think Lamborghini have taken over the customer car market. They've got 47 cars in the Super Trofeo. We think about a dozen or more in GT3, the main event. And I mean, it's just unbelievable, the growth, and not just of Lamborghini with the Huracan, but the growth of customer GT3. The marketplace is just mushroomed.
Yeah, one of the quirks in all of this is that you kind of get used to seeing how many of a given brand there is year after year. As you see a spinning 66 Ferrari, there are many of them. That's the pseudonymed Steve Parrow that's gone off down at the first chicane. We only have one Aston Martin though. You kind of think there should be more because you get used to seeing Astons, and we've had outright wins from Aston Martins in the past, but David Bartram's Oman Racing Team, the sole representative of the British brand. So everybody now cycles through. As I say, don't expect tremendous times out of this session because of the road being damp. But another element of qualifying, and indeed the race, John, that we're going to have to factor in, and so too are the teams, is traffic. 57 cars in this entry.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very, well, we've seen this over the past 2 years. In fact, Monza's always had a bumper entry of cars, mid-50s up to 60, I think, maybe last year. So traffic and management of the traffic and the ability to make your way through traffic. And what's also happened this year in the Blancpain GT series, both sprint and now here at Endurance, is not only has the quality of the car, we've got a lot of 2016 model GT cars here, but also we're getting more younger drivers coming into the series because they see it as a great way to go motor racing, and to maybe if they can't get up the single-seater ladder, which has maybe been their aspiration, there is a wonderful world of GT3 racing, which Blancpain is the leading championship around the world, and that's where they want to be in. So cars, standards have risen dramatically. Driving performance, not necessarily standards, but performance likewise has risen. So we're going to see more and more young drivers looking to getting into GT3 racing, and of course the more senior gentlemanly drivers are going to find it maybe a little bit less comfortable, unfortunately for them.
There is an option for them, which is the GT Sports Club series that was at Misano, for example, and will support Blancpain at the Spa 24 Hours. So there is an avenue for the gentleman racer to go if he doesn't want to do this anymore, but it is a very competitive championship, perhaps even more so than FIA GT used to be years ago when they were 3-hour races. So we've got the cars then now heading through the Parabolica. And at the moment, it is Stuart Leonard who is the fastest. Not for long, because a Ferrari goes top. Michael Broniszewski has done a 1:53.372 now, as the session ticks away. We're with about, 8 more minutes to go. And in strife is the number 22 Nissan. That's down at the Rettifilio. Matthew Simmons, the Australian driver at the wheel, the winner of the Australian element of the PlayStation Nissan GT Academy last year.
Yeah, so it's just getting caught out, and they maybe under braking going into the first chicane. Heavy braking. Fastest lap currently, 1:52.1, compared to the best we saw, which was actually done on Saturday morning by the 34 Ferrari Manucelli at a 1:47.9. Really, track conditions, no doubt, contributing to that. When we get through to the second and third of these qualifying sessions, when people will put new tyres on, or the best of the rest, but certainly one new set for most teams, maybe two in some cases, expect to see the lap times drop dramatically.
So you've got 59 now being the fastest in the first element of the session, and 59 is the Garage 59 McLaren that is now in the hands of Struan Moore.
So literally, if cars coming across start-finish line almost by the car, we're seeing improvements, but it is the McLaren that's gradually nibbling away with just under 7 minutes of the session remaining. And of course, as we just talked about, traffic managing it, everybody's gone out, so we've got a very busy racetrack. Currently, you're looking, there's about 4, maybe 5 cars in the pit lane. The remaining cars are somewhere around the 5.7 mile Monza 11 corner circuit. Great history. Magnificent place for a motor race, old style, old school, all the good things about motor racing. Maybe too many chicanes.
Well, they certainly
too much run off. Too much run off.
Yeah, go with that.
You know, let's go back to the good old days.
And yesterday we had some great weather as well, because we had just enough rain to make it lively, but it wasn't so much that they all had to bail for a change of tyres. And the first chicane and the second chicane in different sessions were where people were being caught out. So Struan Moore's McLaren is the fastest. Ahmed Al-Hafi's Aston Martin is second quickest, and third is Laurence Fry in the Jaguar.
Well, the second McLaren now has gone quickest on a 1:50.4, so half a second advantage over the. In fact, it's been eclipsed as I speak, so times now. So literally, as the cars have gone 2, 3, 4 laps, no one really is bothering to come in. They're just going out and running and letting the track come to the team and the driver and the car. There's no point in trying to make changes, because the bigger change will be in the track drying out over those 15 minutes.
Yeah, fastest now is the Ferrari of Ezequiel Perez Companc, going strongly, although we know that Ferraris are quick around here. Bit of gravel on the road at the second chicane in the background, so somebody's had a moment there. But largely people keeping out of trouble this morning. 888 Ferrari, which is the Castle Racing car of Marco Zannottini, Vadim Gittin and Liam Talbot. Should be Marco Zannottini to do this first part of qualifying. That's one of the cars that runs in the AM Cup. Remember, we've got the 3 categories. There's the Pro-Am and the AM Cup.
Actually, in fact, we shouldn't say there's 57 cars on track 56, because a number of them are 2-driver cars. And of course, some of those are still... And one of those will be Matt Griffin and Duncan Cameron, who were the quickest Ferrari in the afternoon pre-qualifying session. But that lap time was fractionally slower than we saw from the earlier morning session, where, as I mentioned, the Manucelli Ferrari did a 1:47.9 as against Matt Griffin's, I think, one of 48.1 or so. But one car we always need to keep an eye on is the 333 Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, which
had a spin yesterday, didn't it?
It did, but just leaving breakfast, bumped into Marco Siegfried and Norbert Siedler. I said, what's wrong? And they sort of had that kind of, wouldn't say smirk, but confident grin that they know they've got a quick car. They haven't shown their hand. They may well do so in the second and third qualifying segments.
Because as yet, that hasn't set a time, nor only now, in fact, the Bentley is starting to get going. There is 8, which is the Soucek Soule car, and it's Andy Soucek at the wheel. And number 7, Vincent Abriel, has only just done a flying lap. But if you're not going to get a proper lap time out of this session because of the damp conditions, then you don't really need to pound around for the whole 15 minutes. As normal, it's the second, certainly the third elements of qualifying, especially the third with the lighter fuel load, that you can expect the gun times to come.
Yeah, I mean, you've gone like maybe 5 minutes to go, enough time just to give the car a run, get some heat into the suspension, basically, into the wheels, tyres, although they will change wheels and tyres at the end of the session, but just to get some heat into the car and to make sure that after the overnight, what would be the equivalent of a 25,000 mile service, which is what the teams do with these cars, that everything has been put back together, and sometimes that isn't often the case.
So 333, just to go back to that green Ferrari we're talking about, should be Renat Salikov in this session, but as yet no time has been offered up by that car. How's number 8 Bentley doing? Well, Andy Soucek is 8th fastest, so he's having a good run this morning. Got the McLaren behind, totally different shapes from the 2 British brands there. Bentley and McLaren running together. The fastest time is now Dominic Baumann, switching from BMW to Mercedes this year, and he's done a 1:49.074, and the Rinaldi Ferrari we've just been discussing has only now ventured out onto the track, in fact.
Yes, and that time from Dominic Baumann is probably 49.0. No, it's not. Times are gradually coming down. We're seeing faster sector times for Baumann, sector times for the McLaren in second place. But it's all somewhat irrelevant. And then checkered flag will come out in 2 minutes, and then the next segment will take place a further 10 minutes down the road.
So just had Dominic Baumann to the top of the times, a 1:49.074 now, so still not quite as quick as yesterday in better weather. Comme Ledegar you're looking at in the Garage 59 McLaren, former French Carrera Cup champion, very quick driver, much underrated Comme Ledegar, and this is his real chance to shine. He's not been particularly on a global stage before, but he's about to be, and he's about to prove how good he is. Philippe Eng has now gone top in the BMW, run by Rover Racing, the new for this year BMW, the F13 M6 GT3. So BMW, Mercedes, Nissan is the order, because Lucas Ordóñez has now gone third, whereas here 58 Comme Ledegar has done the absolute best in the first sector. He's got 101 Lamborghini just up the road, which is Fabio Babini in this first part of qualifying.
It's the first time we've actually seen the Nissan all weekend. Look, they've been doing a lot of running on very old used tyres, and they were languishing down in 30th, high 20s. So good to see that car running at a competitive pace where it really, well over assumed, at a racetrack which suited where it should be.
Now Ledegar in the middle sector, personal best, but look at all the traffic ahead of him. It might not play too much of a problem on this lap, but it should on the next if he stays out. But he's only going to get one more shot, isn't he? Because the flag will be out at the end of his next lap, and he's all twitching going into the Parabolica. That's going to ruin the lap, isn't it?
Yes, it is, apart from the traffic ahead of him. But the McLaren has been consistently looking unstable under braking at the point you turn in. It just seems to lose that a momentary bit of rear end grip, and you've just got to hope that it's going to bite, be with you. So he loses a little bit of speed off the exit of the Parabolica, and of course consequently can't make the pass down into the chicane.
Stefano Constantini's Ombra Racing Lamborghini down in the pit lane. We told you there were lots of Lamborghinis. There's yet another example. And Constantini ends the session early, so the car can be made ready for Q2. So this is the fastest car, the BMW. Philippe Eng at the wheel. He did a 48.8 on the last lap through, and that is a 48.5. So proof that the road is drying all the time. A 1:48.591 is provisionally the top time. Philippe Eng then in the first part of qualifying goes to the top.
This car, as opposed to its sister, the car driven by Steph Dusseldorf, this car has looked really, really good. The 99 Row Racing BMW M6 GT3. for some reason, Steph doesn't go up in that 98 car, and also Lucas Lohr, who's driving with him, and Lohr's old mate, Klaus Graf, who've raced together in the North America for many, many years. They just could not get a handle on that car whatsoever. So they'll be looking to see the sister car, 99, quickest of all. 98, Klaus Graf ended up in the top 10 in 10th place. So they have made progress, clearly, but they're working from a long way behind to make progress, or to make progress certainly on their sister car.
Now their number 7 Bentley, fourth fastest. It is Guy Smith at the wheel. We said it was Vincent Abril earlier because the transponder is in the wrong place. It is Guy Smith behind the wheel of the car. He's put it up to fourth fastest, and he's done a personal and an absolute best on this lap as Guy Smith, and he comes up towards the timing line, and as he goes through the lap, lost out in the last sector because of the traffic, so he was compromised in the last corner. He does a time at 1:49.130. It's a personal best lap, but the car stays fourth within this element of qualifying. And we've got team managers being summoned to the stewards already. We've got people being warned about track limits, and we have had 54 cars out on track. Did that include number 42? Yes, it did. I raised that because yesterday the car suffered some damage, but it is out on track with Niels Stevenart, the former Treffy Ambros competitor, having done the first part of qualifying, and Jörg Wiebahn replacing 71-year-old Mark Soord for today. Mark having crashed the car yesterday and injuring himself sadly, so we wish him well. Didn't look as though there was too much damage, but it put the car out for the rest of the day. Didn't take part in the pre-qualifying yesterday afternoon.
Yes, definitely the car looked ready to have moderate damage around the nose, but of course if you hit the barrier, as the car would appear to have done on the entry coming down into the first chicane, you may well get a bit of whiplash, because if you hold on to the steering wheel as opposed to releasing the steering wheel, which is what most drivers today do by second nature, then you can maybe get a crack on the wrist, or maybe a little bit of a heavy bang, which might have caused some bruising and some discomfort.
So you look down into the pit lane, everyone getting ready. Of course, the smart teams won't necessarily stay out to the checkered flag. They'll come in a little early because that gives them more time to get ready for the next part.
Indeed, and I think that's what we maybe saw with the BMW, the 99 BMW coming in earlier, where others, Vincent Abril has opted to stay out. The other issue, of course, here is with a full grid of cars, the Monza pit lane is suddenly a little bit inadequate. So everybody's got to line up echelon style to give everybody space to be able to get the car parked.
And of course, that pit lane in the race is going to be very, very busy because they won't be in that echelon. There'll be nose to tail.
They hope to be.
Yeah.
There will be somebody who will be not quite nose to tail, but that will be just their misfortune if they can't get the car in to the air guns, up to the refueling buzzers. So that's going to be an issue.
Philippe Eng talking about life with the Rover Racing team. So 0.267 of a second up he was. There's the Emil Frey Racing Jag, who are getting set for the next part of qualifying. The distinctive blue Jag now to be taken over by Stefano Telli for the next part of qualifying. And it's going to be another 15 minutes, of course, for Q2. And this will be busier because, as John made the point in Q1, we have 3 two-driver entries, and if you only have 2 drivers, you don't get extra track time. You have to sit out Q1. So one of those cars, Matt Griffin, Duncan Cameron's Ferrari, was quickest in pre-qualifying, and another, the Jiri Pisarik Matteo Maricelli Ferrari, was quickest in free practice. So there are 2 really, really quick Ferraris about to join the party. But let's see how we look at the end of the first part of qualifying. BMW tops the times then. Philippe Eng did it at 1:48.591. Lamborghini second in the end with Max van Splunteren, and then Kobe Ledegar setting the time for third ahead of Dominic Bauman's BMW right at the end, ahead of Guy Smith, then Lucas Ordóñez. 7th fastest Luciano Baqueta ahead of Andy Soucek. Then Ezequiel Perez Companc in the Ferrari, and Klaus Graf's BMW to round out the top 10. Tom Onslow Cole going well, 11th in the Bentley of Ian Loggy, and Greg Gilbert with the Santilok Audi is 12th fastest. And still they come. Remember, we've got 50 plus in the first part. Passin Lafora's Ferrari 13th ahead of Christopher Bruck, then Struan Moore's McLaren, Michele Beretta in the next to the Lamborghinis ahead of Laurent Cazeneuve. That was a slow car yesterday, much more lively today. Then Laurens Vanthoor's Audi, with Dries Vanthoor, younger brother, doing the first part of qualifying, expected to really fly in Q3 when big brother Laurens gets behind the wheel. So for now, as you look all the way down the order, there are 1 or 2 of the Pro Cup cars in what you might term unfamiliar places. like number 4 Audi, but Adrian Delina, 36th, can anticipate his car to go much quicker when, for example, Pierre Caffer gets behind the wheel for Q3. Number 22 Nissan, with newcomer Matthew Simmons at the wheel, that was 37th. And have a look behind it, just look at some of the names. Giancarlo Fisichella yet to go, he will drive 53 Ferrari. Robin Frins back from Formula E duty in France yesterday, he will take number 2 into the final part of qualifying. Nicola Armindo at the wheel of the 77 Lamborghini, another man to watch. And at the foot of the times, number 91, the Zach Speed Mercedes, the new AMG GT3, Jean-Frédéric Laberge at the wheel of that car. Well, Bruce Jones is patrolling the pit lane for us. Let's go down to the pit lane and catch up with one or two of the drivers after Q1. Bruce.
Philippe Eng, congratulations, fastest in the first session, but tricky. The track was a bit wet.
Thank you. Yes, it was a good one. I think the car was really nice to drive. The track is still damp on some spots on the approach to Ascari, for example, but 95% dry. And it was really good fun out there.
57 cars going out to qualify. How hard is it to get a clear bit of track for the 99 BMW?
I had nobody in front and nobody behind. Nobody overtook me, so that's always a good sign. No, it was fine. I mean, the track is quite long, so for me it was no problem.
Philip, best of luck. Maybe luck is with you today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nobody overtook him and there was nobody around him and he had a clear road. That's not at all what I expected.
Well, I mean, we did notice this yesterday, that on brief moments in a session you might find one car literally nothing ahead of it, nothing behind it. It's a freak of the nature of the racetrack with so many cars. They just bunch together and they split up and separate. Some go in the pits, some stay out. And Philippe Eng, just as the beneficiary of a clear track, only had to focus on what he was there to do. Consequently, he went quickest.
So Q2 is underway. Here we go again, another 15 minutes. So you don't add times together. You take the best time set across the 3 elements, or the better of the 2 if you're a 2-driver entry. We anticipate the best times will come in the 3rd segment. The track is drier. The quicker driver goes in. The fuel load is lighter. You don't refuel between bits of qualifying. So the lighter car is there for Q3. But this is going to be interesting again. The target time then, set by Philippe Eng, 1 minute 48.591. Michael Meadows has gone out in number 2 Audi, for example, first down the line in the car that Stuart Leonard has been driving. Stuart switching to WRT for the Sepang 12 hours successfully at the end of last year, and Michael Meadows joining him. Michael's got a reputation based on Porsche's double Carrera Cup champion, but now it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on with the Audi. He knows the circuits because we've seen Michael do Blancpain and indeed the ELMS in the past, so he's no stranger to European venues, but it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on as the track now starts to get busy.
Yes, and not only as a step out of Carrera Cup particularly, but as a step out of, in a sense, domestic race tracks, which great circuits that we have in Great Britain. When you come to circuits like Monza, Spa 24, going to Paul Ricard, for example, if you're not familiar with circuits where you've got quite long straights, high speeds, and in some cases at Spa, here at Monza, you've got some very quick corners, quite different to those that you maybe are familiar with, but good drivers are good drivers and they'll shine wherever they go.
It's a good career move. There he is, Michael Meadows, because he'd kind of done all he could do in the UK. This, as I say, we'd already seen him do some European racing, but this is a good move. Son of Formula 1 team manager Ron Meadows, successful in single-seaters. Michael came out of Formula BMW and Formula 3, then raced Ferraris in British GT, Carrera Cup champion twice. He's raced Aston Martins in international sports car racing and now in the Audi. So we'll see how he fares. The Audis have been a little bit anonymous this weekend. We've not been getting as excited about them as at other venues, but actually that's a kind of Monza tradition because Ferraris and Lamborghinis ain't half quick around this Italian circuit.
Well, that's true. We did see a lot of performance last year from Ferrari and the Lamborghini, but again, WRT, they come here, they do their preparation. They're not going to show their hand until they need to do so, and they don't need to do it really until we get into qualifying here on Sunday morning at Monza, and it's going to be this segment and the final qualifying segment that will get the true picture of who has got pace and who maybe has flattered you to see.
So these 15 minutes rattle through very quickly indeed. By the time you've left the pit lane and done your out lap and a warm-up lap, then you haven't got too many to go, but we'll see how these times shake up. Remember that they're aiming to, which is Philippe Eng's time set from earlier on.
So that traffic is going to be a frustration for Michael Meadows and Audi, with a Bentley sandwich in the middle. So all he can hope for is not to get delayed through the Ascari. He's got fastest first sector times. You can see that by the purple on your screen. All he can try to do now is get under the rear of the Bentley. I mean, that's a fairly large piece of motor punching its way through the air. So if the Audi can stay in the slipstream and not get dropped, and it doesn't look like the Audi can do anything about the straight line speed of the Bentley, and not able to even use the slipstream to gain an advantage into the Parabolica.
So much of yesterday's running was done on used tyres. They can keep the fresh ones for these qualifying sessions and for the race. One or two heading for the pit lane, maybe to swap tyres over corner to corner, and others stay out on track, which is drying all the time. That's a look at the ACA ASP Mercedes, new car this year, the new Mercedes, the AMG GT3.
I was just going to say, it needs to be said, Stefano Telli has gone fastest. As I say it, he's dropped to third. So very literally, again, as we had in the first segment of qualifying, virtually every car coming across the line is moving ahead of the car that he was following.
And that's the quickest car now. Go back to Mercedes, that's Andreas Simonsen in the car that Hubert Haupt drove in Q1. Andreas Simonsen, no stranger to Mercedes, no stranger to Blancpain, be it endurance or sprint, but going strongly, number 57 then this morning. It's a much more svelte shape than the old SLS AMG GT3 that we're used to seeing, and there are plenty of them peppering the entry list. So this is the fastest car. Behind those, the Boutsen-Gignon BMW diving through the traffic, the car that Karim Auger put in the gravel yesterday.
So personal best in the first sector for the Mercedes.
But Michele Ruggolo's Ferrari has now gone top in this session, 1:48.7, so he's not far off Philippe Eng's best time of the day.
Yeah, and that's a substantial chunk ahead of Simonsen in second place in the Mercedes. So let's see if Simonsen has got any more to offer. He no doubt will have. But one point now, it's Frederik Vervisch, second quickest in the WRT Audi, that will be shared by the Van Voor brothers, 17-year-old Dries, chip of the old brothers block.
Yeah, Frederik Vervisch is another of those drivers that we've seen a lot of in Blancpain, but flies under the radar, to coin a phrase. He's won the Asian Formula 3 Championship, the German Formula 3 Championship. He's a very handy driver, done a lot of single-seater racing, so it's going to be, again, interesting to see how he fares this year. But Andreas Simonsen was quickest at the start of the lap. He's now dropped to fourth, and he's about to head up towards the timing line. 1:50.069 was the last lap, and as he heads towards the timing beam now, where does the Mercedes go? Goes second, 1:48.835.
So substantial improvement, but brings it very close to the fastest lap, which still has held by the Ferrari. It's on completing its, will be his third lap, so we'll wait to see what it will do at the end of that time lap.
85 ready to go, which is Indy Donja now for the second part of qualifying, taking over from the ever youthful Luciano Bacchetta, who did the first part of qualifying. And that car's going to venture out for really the second half of the session.
A glimpse of the Jaguar, Stefano Telli, pounding around the outside as he came into the second chicane. Vervisch currently fastest first and second sector, so the number one Audi coming down the lane of the back straight. Yeah. Has he backed off? He has backed off.
You might be right. He'd done two absolute bests, as you can see, two purple sectors. So is he pitting? It'd be a real shame to bail on what could have been a really good lap unless he felt the traffic had got in the way. No, I think he is staying out. So number one, Frederik Vervisch, about to cross that timing line, which he does now. And what does it do to the lap time? Stays third. It was the last sector that went against him. Significantly went against him because he dropped about 3.5 seconds in
but
it.
I thought, I'm just looking at it, I said, he's backed off.
Yeah.
And obviously he did back off. The time indicates that he dropped that last sector because he saw the traffic. Great shame, because that was going to be a really, really impressive lap, but he feels that was the right thing to do in that particular set of circumstances.
Now, Michele Ruggolo is the next one to look for because he's done the absolute best in the first sector. He backed out of his last lap, as there Andreas Simonsen has a little weave. What's all that about?
I don't know. I mean, it was as if he'd seen something in the circuit and he wanted to avoid it, but there's nothing that we can see. Maybe looking down at something in the cockpit and pulled a little bit to the right and then pulled back to the left to make his entry into Parabolica.
So ready to 22 Nissan. Yeah.
It's up to 23rd place. 24th now, just been overtaken.
So in the middle sector, Michele Ruggolo has had a very slow time. So my excitement about the number 50 Ferrari has been misplaced. Traffic, I fear, yet again, hampering him. There he is in the background, but it's Now, a lap that's, I'm afraid, going to be irrelevant, as Will Stevens briefly went top, 1:48.4, but now Dirk Werner's BMW goes quickest of all, 1:48.372, the same car that Philipp Eng put at the top of the first part of qualifying. So Werner, Stevens, and then this Ferrari of Michele Rugolo is the order. Number 99 BMW, looking very strong this morning.
And Steph Dusseldorf and the sister car, the car that was troublesome yesterday, currently 5th, just over half a second behind. Well, now Werner was quickest. He's been overtaken by the Nissan 23. Nissan car normally driven by Alex Buncombe. We always refer to it as the Buncombe Nissan, but
it's Mitsunori Takaboshi, first time here, who's done the time.
I mean, there will be, I tell you, I can't imagine the smiles we're going to see from the Nissan team, because they were way off the pace, but they assured me the time is there.
And there's the evidence of it. So, Takaboshi, 1:48.143. It's a good effort, that.
Jasmine Jafar had just gone second quickest. He's now being deposed. What was interesting yesterday was that the Pro-Am drivers in that second session almost dominated the top 6. Well, that was a glimpse, I think, into the Nissan garage, all watching the screen, watching timing and scoring. So, very impressive indeed.
So 5 more minutes to go. While the Audi's in a bit of strife at the Variante della Loggia there, getting out of the way.
Werner has now regained quickest overall of 1:47.7, and that is the fastest lap overall in any of the sessions so far this weekend. So the 99 M6 GT3 BMW, we saw it in Mazzano 2 weekends ago, where shocked in a sense by coming from 30th in the grid in the sprint race to finish second. And here again, performance and spinner down at Parker Racing. That was the Bentley. So it's gone off down the second chicane. Let's have a look and see. Oh, so there's the number 1 car. Well, that's not very impressive. That's Vervish, who had been extremely quick and now down to 18th. So Frederick Vervish gets it wrong in the second chicane for some inexplicable reason. He wasn't with any traffic at the time. We've also had the 24 Bentley that had just also had its spin down to the second chicane. It's recovering, and of course in the process not quite back up to speed.
Just had confirmation, by the way, that number 2 is being driven by Robin Frins in this session. The team has had a switch, putting Michael Meadows in 3rd. So Robin Frins doing this part of qualifying. And 666 under investigation for a pit stop infringement. Interesting. That being the Barwell Lamborghini, Richard Abra to Mark Poole to Joe Osborne. So this is at the moment the car to have. Number 99 BMW, Dirk Werner at the wheel, 1:47.724, 8/10 quicker than the car went in Q1. Dirk Werner, BMW factory driver, we've seen him in GT, DTM, you name it. And he goes across the timing line. That lap was slower, it was a 51.0.
I mean, when you watch the car on track, it doesn't look fast.
No, you're absolutely right.
Some cars look really fast. The Nissan looks really quick coming out of the chicane. It's dropped down to 3rd place, still in that 1:48.1. But the BMW looks like it's a Sunday afternoon cruiser.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe it's a size thing, as now Rob Bell, number 58 McLaren, has done the absolute best in the first sector. So we're looking at the Nissan that's 3rd, and I don't think he's going to be able to improve, but we'll see. He goes over the timing line now, Takaboshi, and the lap is not an improvement, so he stays 3rd. But Rob Bell, middle sector, in the Garage 59, number 58 McLaren, double winner of races last year, and the McLaren, 58 and 59, the 2 Garage 59 cars. That's it. That's Rob Bell's car. The sister one has gone by, and Rob Bell's about to come up to the end of the middle sector. This will give us an indication of how well the lap is going for him.
And he's got, relatively speaking, clear air.
Indeed.
From the Ascari chicane all the way down the back straight, down into Parabolica. He's not going to catch the traffic ahead of him.
He's dropped 4 seconds in the middle sector.
Yeah, it looked as if he had backed off.
Yeah.
So the traffic wasn't really going to come into play, but Rob Bell's decided that he doesn't need to do an awful lot more. Jasmine Jaffor in the HTP Mercedes, he's leapt up into second place, just over a tenth of a second behind Dirk Werner in the BMW.
Now, if Rob Bell knows this lap has got away from him and there are 90 seconds to go, will he stay out or will he pit and give the team chance to get Shane van Gisbergen ready? He's going to stay out, so he'll do one more lap to the checkered flag. But that lap...
It's strange why he backed off, because I didn't think the traffic ahead of him was going to be a particular big problem, but maybe from Rob Bell's perspective, he saw it differently. So he did back off up at the entry into the third sector. That's the Ascari chicane. So we've now got BMW and Mercedes, and in third place,
McLaren.
Rob Bell.
Followed by Nissan fourth. Now you just see what's going on in the pit lane, and Dirk Werner's quickest car has pitted as number 19 Lamborghini tries to wriggle its way through the traffic there, and it's Andrea Piccini, hugely experienced driver Andrea Piccini at the wheel. There aren't many GT cars he's not raced over the years. Now fetching up at Lamborghini, and the flag is 33 seconds away.
Very racy coming down into the chicane. Mercedes just trying every way, one side then the other. The 84 car, Dominic Baumann, Jasmine Jaffor, I beg your pardon. Baumann had been in the car. Jasmine Jaffor ducking and diving, weaving under, braking, and then has to back out of it altogether.
Just look at this, as you compare and contrast Lamborghini and Ferrari, absolutely dead set level down towards that first chicane. Kelly Rugelo's Ferrari going quick as every second fastest. Big flash of the lights from Jasmine Jafar to say, get out of my way, I'm on a quick lap here. He's third fastest, and the flag is out, so Q2 is at an end. And the clever team don't let the drivers take the flag, they bring them in straight away.
And a good performance. Stefano Telli pops up into 9th place in the Jaguar. So, I mean, what a change of almost environment as much as of equipment. And Otelli, still there, irrepressible performance, enthusiasm, motivation, everything will no doubt drive the ML3 Jaguar team, particularly in endurance events, further forward.
Stefan was having quite a lot of attention to his back on Friday. There was no track running, but the drivers were here for the administrative checks, but he was suffering with a little bit of back pain that had to be addressed. But the good news is that he's bolted into the car and making it fly. The team manager of the number 7 Bentley being summoned to race control immediately, as you look down to the pit lane and you can see just how busy it gets as the teams try and cycle the cars through ready for the next element of qualifying, and that is how it looks at Kessel Racing. Go to Kessel's garage or AF Corsa, it's like a Ferrari dealership. There are so many of them.
And you've got a choice of 458, 488.
Yes.
They're not doing a cabriolet or a Spider version of either car at the minute, but no doubt somebody will do it. Back in the good old days when Ferrari made the 250 GT Spider, the California, they were raced in period. Used to flex and crack like a whip. I mean, they were not as good as the Berlinetta, but still made a beautiful car.
Yeah. Well, Ferrari at the moment, 54 thousandths shy of a BMW time, and then Mercedes, that car of Jasmine Jaffa, third as he takes the flag in the pit lane. So there's a whole line of team managers at the moment being summoned either to the race director, Alain Adam, or to see the stewards. And lights on, the last few cars head for the pit road. Down at Opera Racing, Lamborghini is being turned through.
Just sort of being obtuse and all that, awkward. With all these requests or orders or whatever, get to race control immediately. What if all the team principals and team managers said, we've had enough of all this, we're not going to go up. What are you going to do about it? And if there's enough of them, it'd be an interesting little conundrum, wouldn't it? It'd be good for the last race of the season just to throw a maverick, a schoolboy revolution in the paddock.
Whisper it, yeah. So I suspect it's all to do with infringements in the pit lane, but the stewards have been busy so far this weekend with people regularly speeding in the pit lane. There's Will Stevens heading in, 7th in his part of qualifying, the former Manor Formula 1 driver who's turned to GT racing this year. It's finding it a very different environment, but it's going pretty well.
Yeah, I think in fairness to Will, he could have been doing this in 2015, and then the call came from Manor, so he obviously wanted to do that. But when he had done the test at the back end of 2014, WRT were clearly impressed enough with his ability, and when the opportunities were available, then the two parties came together and finalised an agreement and a deal, and here we have the young man from Essex in a WRT Audi, and I think he must be pretty happy with that situation.
Yes, it may not keep him in Formula One, but it's given him a competitive race-winning car nonetheless in a different championship. Andrea Piccini brings the Lamborghini in. Remember, Lamborghini victorious here last year. A bit of a story attached because the car was excluded because of its fuel rig and then reinstated many months after. So BMW having a very good morning, and on the evidence of yesterday you wouldn't have predicted this necessarily, but the Rover Racing team is a very, very good squad, familiar to running Mercedes but now BMWs, and some very good drivers in those cars.
I mean, when you see Klaus Graf and Lucas Lohr together, I mean, they are always a team that you've got to put in certainly a podium position.
So let's have a look at how Q2 stands then. Dirk Werner's BMW by 54 thousandths from Michele Rugelo's Ferrari. And then third fastest Jasmine Jaffar. Fourth quickest Rob Bell's McLaren ahead of Mitsunori Takaboshi in the Nissan. Lorenzo Bontempelli sixth. That's going to be a car to watch in the next part with Giancarlo Fisichella behind the wheel. Will Stevens seventh ahead of Jeroen Bleekemolen, and then Stefan Ortelli. And then Daryl O'Young 10th quickest ahead of Andreas Simonsen, and motoring journalist Chris Harris rounding out the top dozen. Good effort by him. 13th quickest Indy Doncia ahead of Felipe Albuquerque. Then it is Alessandro Bonaccini from Raffaele Giammaria. Steph Dusseldorp 17th from Robin Frins. Andrea Piccini 19th in number 19. Then Vincent Abril, Philippe Salaquado, Richard Abra, Frederic Verviche only 23rd after his spin, and Peter Cox 24th in the sister WRT Audi. 25th, the Santilloc Audi, being driven by Mike Parisi, the irrepressible. Francisco Guedes going very strongly to be 26th in the Am Cup Ferrari, ahead of Marco Seefried. Wow. Then Giovanni Berton from Jules Gounon, son of Jean-Marc. Wolfgang Wright Bentley 30th from Alex Fontana, Alexander Matschel, Marco Zanotini, Alexander Moiseev, and then Stefan Kampenhout. And further back down the order, the Oman Racing Team Aston Martin 40th fastest, with Devon Modell at the wheel for that session. Jiri Pisarik joins in and goes 41st. And down towards the bottom of that page, the Roberto Ravaglia run BMW for Giorgio Roda, 48th fastest. And the final cars, giving us now the full complement of 57, include Duncan Cameron, 50th fastest, but that car's going to fly in the next part of qualifying. So second fastest, Michele Rugolo. Good effort from the Italian, and Michele is in the pits with Bruce Jones.
Michele Rugolo, great job there, second fastest, but it's not easy out on the track. The track's drying. Is it dry yet?
Yeah, it's I would say completely dry. The only thing is that the curbs are still not completely perfect, so I was not really confident to use them. But I would say that the condition of the air is very fresh, so it's very good now.
Now, how do you make a space in traffic with 56 other cars around you?
Actually, I haven't been able to find a good spot, because even my quickest lap I had to lose time in the exit of last turn. So I've lost, compare my fastest first sector around 2 tenths and a half. So it's not easy, but I have to say that everybody is pretty much fair. So when they watch pretty much the mirrors. Very nice.
Yeah, well, it looked good. Best of luck for your car, number 50. Thank you.
Thanks.
So Michele Rugolo walked away, and the car is going to be in the hands of the third driver now for the next element of qualifying, which will be getting underway very shortly. And this is really where the grid is going to be formed. This is the crunch point.
I mean, this is where we're going to see the true performance, and everybody will be running what is the best of the rest, or in most cases a new set of tyres, because this is going to be the key session. Track will be at its best. It's been improving over the last 2 sessions. As Michele Rugolo said, there are a couple of areas where it's marginal, pointing out very rightly too that he's not abusing the curbs. If he's going to run a curb, he's doing it with care, because curbs are painted, they tend to be slippery, or more slippery anyway, than a track that's been drying, so everybody's a bit cautious of that. Some have been caught out, so one would assume the hot rods are going to be in for this final qualifying segment. New tyres, and expect to see an improvement on the fastest overall time, which still stands to Malucelli, I think, for a 1:47.9 from Friday morning. So I would like to think we're going to see something approaching a low 47, might even hit a high 46. I look forward to it, and as we speak, the Nissan 23 is the first car out onto the circuit, and this will be Alex Buncombe.
So he's given himself a clear road, but of course by the time he's finished his outlap, it could be that some cars are still leaving the pit lane and he gets in traffic straight away.
Yeah, that's the risk, the gamble you take. You either wait until everybody goes, or you get out ahead of the field and just hope that by the time you come back to go across the start-finish line to start your first flying lap, there is that, please make me a gap I can slot into and do the good work. But I mean, the pit lane, it's like a used car lot.
Out they pour, Lamborghini's in profusion, more on the move, Audi's ready to go. It's a fantastic sight, that pit lane, and you just walk up it early in the morning and drool over what is a marvellous entry. 11 different brands represented. It's just incredible the way that GT racing has become so popular. Not just the Endurance Cup with massive entries this year, but a really good entry in the Sprint Cup as well.
I mean, I would just love to. I didn't do it. I just love to walk down with a calculator and go 180,000 pounds, 250,000 pounds. I mean, I wonder what the value of the field is in terms of if you had to buy each one of these cars off the floor of your showroom, and essentially some people do that. Okay, you go to the sporting arm of a manufacturer, but nevertheless.
But no, the point is a valid one, isn't it? They are all customer cars. They're built by manufacturers and deliberately sold to customers just like a road car.
I mean, everybody, Mercedes have done it with the SLS now, the AMG GT3, Ferrari doing it with the 488. Yeah. And we've got 458s and 488s racing. Lamborghini with the Huracan. I mean, Lamborghini are the ones that will really move forward with it. BMW, there's 4 of them in the race. So that's maybe more of a semi-factory backed, not quite full-on customer. The boots on Ginion is probably the nearest one to what I would call a customer car. Alessandro Pierguidi in the Ferrari. Again, I mean, a driver who we know has got all the pace, was put at the front row of the grid in Spa 2 years ago. Interviewed him on the grid and said, first corner, always a problem through Eau Rouge over the radio. No problem, no problem. And what happens, he gets to the top of radio, promptly spins it in front of the entire field, and he managed to get away scot-free. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good. On this occasion, I think we can say he's good and probably quite lucky as well. Fastest sector of this first flying lap for the Ferrari driver, but look at the traffic ahead of him. He's really going to be compromised all the way through, trying to get a little bit of assistance from the Bentley going into NISMO 1, but, well, no luck there.
Not hanging about, is he? Get through the traffic quick as.
Well, the Bentley wasn't being particularly helpful. And in reality, if the Bentley was on its outlap, it should have been more consistent. The Nissan now behind, and again, same kind of thing. The Bentley wandering around as the Nissan makes its way past. So the Nissan and the Ferrari, probably the 2 quickest cars on circuit at the minute. But again, their time has been compromised in that second sector.
But Alessandro Pierguidi is on a mission then. He's trying to get himself to the head of that queue as best he can. Matt Griffin is up the road, isn't he, in the green Ferrari. Duncan Cameron didn't really sparkle in his session, but Matt Griffin behind the wheel gets out of the way. He's not yet on the hot lap, whereas Alessandro Pierguidi is. He always seems to be on a quick lap, in fact. And Daniel Kylbitz in number 66 Ferrari, the black Ferrari. He was very quick yesterday. He, I think, is going to be the first one to offer up a gun time, because he's done 2 absolute bests.
Yeah, so the Alessandro Pierguidi car comes across. He gives fastest lap at the minute, 1:48.9. And Sean Walkinshaw, second quickest in the Nissan. So that was Sean Walkinshaw we saw behind Lott. The Bentley was really being inconsistent and inconsiderate. So Sean Walkinshaw drops down to third as everybody comes across the line. Times are changing as people complete their first and second flying laps.
Still think Kylbitz is going to be the man to watch in a moment. Lucas Stoltz ready to go, switching from Bentleys to Lamborghinis for this year. Kylbitz goes quickest, as predicted, 1:47.711. 76 Porsche wriggling out of the Retafilio. That's got Raymond Narak at the wheel of it. Now Parabolica.
Yes, the Ferrari 66 has now gone, and Daniel Kylbitz, 1:47.711. Fastest first, second sector, but in fact didn't get it in the third sector.
So Mauro Engel is now the man to watch.
Mercedes,
he's gone quicker on his next lap in that sector.
3:33 up to third place. So the car that we always keep an eye on, Siegfried and Seidler, back up to where one would assume they would be somewhere near the front of the grid. Still, what we got, just under 10 minutes of the session remaining. Lots and lots is going to change. Momentum had to be slightly offline in the entry to the chicane, but gathered it all up in the middle part and then had a good exit. So let's keep an eye on that 59 McLaren to see where it ends up at the end of this lap. In relative terms, not been too bothered by traffic. Personal best, first and second sector is probably his first flying lap. So the young man from Northern Ireland comes across the line. 59 McLaren, where does it end up? It's 8th place.
Good effort, isn't it, that? Really good effort.
Well, considering he had to pass cars on the lap, it wasn't a clear lap, it was compromised, so that's a good end to the lap.
And for somebody who wouldn't exactly say he was familiar with Monza, now that's Marucelli that I was mentioning a while ago. Absolute best, personal best, traffic up the road. Is that going to affect things? He darts past the Conrad run Lamborghini up towards the timing line. Number 34 Ferrari, Matteo Marucelli breaks the beam and goes second fastest. 1:47.769. 58 thousandths shy of Daniel Kalvitz, and get this, he is 1/1000th quicker than Alessandro Pierguidi.
Competition amongst the mark.
Wow, it's getting very, very close, isn't it? 1,000th of a second separating cars. A bit further down, there's 2,000 splitting a Bentley and a Lamborghini. As number one, this is Laurens Vanthoor, who has yet to really perform the heroics.
And really, it's the first time we've seen Laurens Vanthoor in this session. So he's got a clear track ahead of him, followed by another WRT Audi. So where everything else looks reasonably good in the first sector of the racetrack, coming down into the second chicane. So all he has got to do is place his car with accuracy, not try and overdrive it, just get the power on. Personal best, not fastest overall in that first sector.
He's 7 tenths down though in that first sector, so I'm not sure it's going to be a really startling lap this. Maybe the next one. He's got the road to himself, so he's bought the track space.
Yeah, and that's the key, is just getting that clear space. And nothing that we can see. Well, there's a Ferrari ahead of him, but that's probably about 200 yards further down the road. So unless he gets caught in Parabolica, he's not going to be bothered too much. So for Laurens Vanthoor, this is a shot. He may not get another one like this with 6.5 minutes of the session to go. Fastest overall in the middle sector. So the car, the tyres, the time is coming once again to the Belgian driver.
He's getting there, isn't he, for sure, as he heads now down to the Parabolica. It's a shame, though, that that first sector wasn't better, because, as I say, he was about 7 tenths down, and that's going to be hard to find on the remainder of the lap. The time is there for another run, if the tyres are willing, so he turns his way now through the Parabolica, uses all of the road. 2 wheels the wrong side of the white line, sprints up to the timing line. Where is number one Audi going to slot in? It's the first proper flying lap. Goes second fastest. 1:47.714. He missed out on the top time by only 3 thousandths of a second. That's a remarkable effort, given the time he dropped at the start of the lap.
Yeah, I mean, he never had a purple in any of the sectors, or if he did do, he had it in the second sector, but that's been eclipsed now by Maximilian Buch, who's just gone 5th quickest in the Mercedes. But overall, he will be happy enough. Second row, he will get a second bite of the cherry. Whether he will catch up to the traffic that was ahead of him, that's going to be something we will only find out. We see the two Nissans. 22, Sean Walkinshaw leading, sister car of Alex Buncombe. Buncombe is currently up in
8th.
He was actually in 4th place a few minutes ago, now down to 8th.
Alessandro Pierguidi, though, has gone fastest while John was talking, so it's Ferrari back to the top by 6,000. So it's Alessandro Pierguidi ahead of Daniel Kalvitz. 3rd now, Laurens Vanthoor. 4th is Marucelli. 5th is Buch. And then 6th fastest, the Audi of Franck Pereira. 7th is Andrew Watson, one of the heroes of qualifying for my money. And 8th is Alex Buncombe. And we're not done yet, 5 more minutes to go. Still lots of green personal best in sectors being set, John.
Yes, just to keep an eye on these two Nissans. Sean Walkinshaw, the car was previously, he'd been 50th, so this is going to be an improvement for the sister Nissan, whether it can get into the top 10 and join the second of those two Nissans all the way from Didcot, Oxfordshire, so an improvement. Nothing.
Alex Buncombe goes quickest, though, 1:47.525. Alex Buncombe quickest by 1/10 of a second. Maximilian Buch's about to turn through the Parabolica then. He's done a personal best within the first sector, dropped a little bit of time in the second, so here he comes up towards the timing line. Maxi Buch, former Blancpain Endurance Series champion, and he's about to go across the timing line, which he does now. doesn't improve, lost out in the last sector, but we've had an improvement. Giancarlo Fisichella goes up to second fastest. Giancarlo now is 51 thousandths shy of Alex Bunker.
Yeah, but also car 85, the Mercedes HTP Motorsport, Clemens Schmidt up to third place. So we've got Nissan, Ferrari, Mercedes, Ferrari, front row, second row.
It's another fascinating grid, and 3 3/4 minutes to go. Go on. That chicane's catching them out almost.
Yeah, just watching the Ferrari coming through there, big slide from the 53 car Giancarlo Fisichella. So the 488 has a lot more torque than the 458, and we were watching yesterday as Alex Bunker just nips in behind the back of the Ferrari, maybe just to get a little view of just how quick that car is going to be in a straight line. Whether it was the 488 or not, we felt that extra torque, maybe at the end of a run, putting a little bit more load into the to keep an eye on when we get into the race itself.
So Fisichella on this lap has done a personal best in sector 1, dropped a bit of time, 3/10 in sector 2. Lawrence Vantour, incidentally, has done 2 personal bests on this lap. Fisichella has got traffic as he gets past Johnny Adam in the Aston Martin. That's 11th quickest. Johnny Adam doing a good job, as you'd expect. Fisichella up towards the timing line. So let's see, is this going to be able to be an improvement? No, because he's going for the pit lane. And that's probably the session done, isn't it, with 2.5 minutes to go?
I would think everybody who's run their set of new tyres, we saw Alex Bunker, we did lip in behind Fisichella just to get a view of what that car's doing. Yes, the Manucelli car up to third place.
And Vantour up to 5th, he did a 47.6, so he's an improver as well. Number 8 Bentley heading for the timing line with Maxime Soulet at the wheel of it. He breaks the timing beam now and does a quicker lap and stays 20th in Q3, 1:48.227. In this element of qualifying alone, 28 covered by less than a second.
Well, it would be nice if it was a bit more competitive. I mean, it's the thing that makes I think the GT3 racing, the Blancpain Series Endurance Championship, so appealing is that the balance of performance. I know that some people always moan that they've been hard done by, but to have that level of car covered by that amount of time is just stunning.
So Maxi Buch now the fastest. Mercedes goes top, 1:47.509, and 16 thousandths quicker than Alex Bunker is Maxi Buch.
Yeah, that's clever. I would say just again, Mercedes HTP have just found that bit of the racetrack. Maximilian Buch has slipped in the time, 16 thousandths of a second ahead of the Nissan. Undoubtedly, Alex Bunker and Nissan will be disappointed to lose pole, but if they can retain their position provisionally right now, with just a minute of the session remaining in the front row of the grid, that's a great place to start. Even left or right, it doesn't matter. It's a rolling start. The run down into the first chicane will be about just grunt, and the Nissan has got lots of that grunt.
And getting through the first chicane is going to be absolutely critical, isn't it? It's not a place for silliness. There is Buch, still pounding on. He's done 2 personal bests.
Yeah, but he was so compromised. I mean, the Ferrari, I mean, it just, I mean, is that Fisichella? I'm not, Vantour. Lawrence Vantour. I thought he maybe slipped on some of Will Stevens' hair gel there.
So
the way it came back again.
Number 42 Ferrari, your V-Bahn.
That's all a bit untidy and messy.
Can't see anybody really shaping up to go quicker on this final lap to the flag.
Now the Bentley just comes across start-finish line, looking to see if there's any further improvement. Nothing appears, so where are the Bentleys? Well, Stephen Kane all the way down in 34th place. Car 7, 34th.
Yeah, 11/10ths off pole. Shows again how tight it is. So many cars in the entry, so evenly matched. But 3-hour race, progress will be made.
Well, the sister car is on the 3rd row of the grid. Why is the 7th car all the way down on the 17th row of the grid?
One of the Bentleys, one of the independent ones, Callum McLeod's car, has had its lap time cancelled for exceeding track limits in the 3rd sector. So the former British Formula 4 champion has incurred the wrath of the officials. So the times we've been talking about are in Q3, but largely this is the faster session, which will be the one the grid is based on. And some teams with a bit of head scratching and a lot of work to do, and that's one of the cars, Stephen Kane. Then normally you can rely on Stephen to drag a result out of anything.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm shocked. I mean, to see that car so far down. Sister car is, as I say, on the third row of the grid, and that's why I would have assumed this number 7 car would have been in and around a row ahead or a row behind, but not down, what, 14 rows further back.
It's going to be a car to watch in the race, isn't it, to see what progress that can make.
Need to be cautious. It's a 3-hour race. They can lose the race so easily by trying too much too soon. So let the thing settle. Let it breathe for 5 laps or 7 or 8 laps, unless you've got clear progress, a clear path. But don't try and force it.
So the drivers taking the checkered flag. Many of them, in fact, having pitted early at the end of that qualifying period. And some of the cars now need to go up the pit lane to the scrutineering area to make sure that they are in compliance with the regulations. And then we look forward to 3 p.m. local time when the race gets underway this afternoon. But the stewards have got quite a bit to address, I think, with the number of team managers that were being summoned to race control. And it could be that 1 or 2 penalties come, which will affect the grid accordingly as well. But all of that will shake out this afternoon. Number 2 Audi, Michael Meadows, did the driving in the 3rd part of qualifying. It was 38 fastest. Matt Griffin's Ferrari there.
Yeah, just they're going into Parc Fermé, as we mentioned, and it'll be a very full Parc Fermé, and the cars will remain there for the best part of an hour, maybe up to 2 hours before they can be then released back to the teams to then get the final preparation required.
Matt Griffin, 8th fastest. We didn't really see him much in his qualifying period, but as you can expect him to do, Griff has hauled the car up to the 4th row of the grid provisionally, and gives him a good chance for class honours.
Yeah. Again, an interesting element of all this is that 2nd row of the grid is dominated by Pro-Am drivers or Pro-Am packages. Of course, the Pro driver is the one that's done the time. Nevertheless, it just indicates the strength. What's happening here? This is a Ferrari making its way back
between elements of qualifying, so the cars are always at their lightest for this. So this is how we look if you take the overall classification, factor in the 3 sessions, and Maxi Buch then ahead of Alex Buncombe, with Giancarlo Fisichella lining up 3rd, Matteo Malocelli doing the time for 4th, ahead of Clement Schmidt, good effort, Maxime Soulet 6th, Laurence Vantour 7th, Matt Griffin 8th, ahead of Alessandro Pierguidi, Daniel Kalvitz for 10th, Alexander Sims 11th, in the car that topped Q1 and Q2, and Andrea Rizzoli rounds out the top dozen ahead of Johnny Adden in the Oman Racing Team Aston Martin. Franck Pereira 14th ahead of Andrew Watson, ahead of Shane van Gisbergen. There's a turn up for the books. Then it is Jose Balboa ahead of Mauro Engel. Adam Christodoulou outpaces Mirko Bortolotti and Nico Muller. Frank Stippler only 23rd, and the 333 Ferrari only 24th. There's an awful lot here to make good during the course of the race. Marco Bononomi down in 25th ahead of Marco Mappelli. Alex Tagliani, former Champ Car star, he makes his Blancpain debut and he's 27th ahead of Sergio Jimenez. Derek Pearce, one of the AMs, is 29th ahead of Nicola Armindo. So good effort by Derek Pearce that to qualify where he has. Christopher Haase is only 32nd, and as we've been saying, Stephen Kane's only 34th. Keep on going. The Bentley of Team Parker for Callum McLeod ends up 37th, but ahead of Sean Walkinshaw, ahead of Michael Meadows, ahead of Pierre Caffer, ahead of Joe Osborne, ahead of Christopher Zirkling. And then you look further down, Jeroen Mull is 45th, Dilo Nanardi 47th, and Lucas Law only 48th in the BMW. Then we have the final page of results with the Sport Garage Ferrari being the 57th of them, but at the other end of the grid is the Mercedes of Maxi Buch, and Maxi is with Bruce Jones.
Maxi Buch, congratulations, the first victory of the day, but getting pole when you've got 57 cars out on the track, incredibly hard.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was lucky to get a clear lap or clear laps in a row. I managed it, I think, quite well, and the team as well, to give me a good slot where they sent me out on track. And so it was all in my hands that I can do when I had the clear lap, so it was okay.
So it's Mercedes on top, but we had Nissan at the top of the timesheets, we had BMW, we had Ferrari. It's incredibly competitive in the Blancpain Endurance Cup.
Yeah, when you see how competitive it is, how tight it is in the front, how many manufacturers can be, or could have been on pole, it's, I think, a good effort from the team, from the manufacturer as well, and that shows us how hard the race will be.
And it's so close on times. We spent the session talking about thousandths of a second. It really is one blink and you failed.
Yeah, it was. You had to have a good lap, a clean lap, bring the sectors together.
Well, you were the best this morning. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
So Maxi Book then the fastest in qualifying by 16 thousandths of a second to back up Bruce Jones's point about how competitive it has been. And within Q3, we have 30 cars covered by less than a second. So although the weather forecast said it was going to be a wet day at Monza, the conditions look at the moment absolutely perfect. The road is drying out all the time, and the track is going to be busy before we get to the Blancpain Endurance race later on, the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup in its renamed form. And one or two cars, thankfully not needing retrieval, but have brought some gravel onto the road, and so we've got the track just being swept before the next on-track activity. And as I mentioned, we've got the last lap time of Callum McLeod having been cancelled due to exceeding track limits in the third sector. So qualifying done, but let's just remind ourselves of how it all panned out. A busy track for the first element of qualifying, and early dramas for Stephen Parrow, the pseudonym-German driver, losing the Ferrari down at the first chicane. The first part of qualifying was on a damp-ish road, so there weren't too many heroic times being set. Everybody trying to make sure they got through safe and sound. As they did so, the first element of qualifying proved no real surprises, and the drivers got themselves ready for Q2, where it was going to be a busier road as the two driver entries joined in. Philip Eng topped the times at the end of the first part of qualifying, and Q2 became even busier. One or two drivers being squeezed out of the way. Andreas Simonsen was a man on a mission midway through as he tried to haul a time out of the car. McLarens were looking racy, but so too Ferraris. Michele Rugolo was very rapid indeed, but in the end of the session, it was going to be about BMW. Frederic Verviche had a spin in number 1. Number 24, Bentley was another rotator coming out of the Varianti della Roggia. Rover Racing's BMW then, having topped Q1 with Philip Eng, topped Q2 thanks to Dirk Werner as well. He managed to bring the time down by 0.8 of a second. But as ever, Ferraris were looking exceedingly quick around Monza. And in Q3, Alessandro Piogidi was a man on a mission. So too was Matteo Malucelli, who tried to haul the number 34 Scuderia Praha Ferrari up the order. Laurens Vanthoor was pressing on for Audi, but he had a rare spin towards the end of the session. Nissans were quick. Indeed, at given points, just about everybody was quick during the course of the session. In the end, despite a spin for the number 42 Ferrari that scattered cars in avoidance, it was all about Mercedes as Maximilian Buch set the fastest time and put himself onto provisional pole position. This was the Laurens Vanthoor spin. He, like many, faces a lot of work to do in our 3-hour race that comes up this afternoon. 3 o'clock we kick off. Join us for that. For now, from Bruce and from Watty, from David Addison. See you later. Bye-bye.